and you read the premise of 100 Girlfriends, and you're like, God, I wish that was me. And then you actually read the manga, you actually watch the anime, and you're like, I don't want to be him. I want to be with him. I feel like one of those girls just like drinking the most delectable cum. We are going to be going through some of my favorites and some of my least favorite anime that I happen to watch in fall 2023. Some of them I haven't finished, some of them I read ahead in the manga, and some of them I dropped 4 episodes or so into. But a lot of them I did finish. I know shonen has the dark trio. This season we had the edge trio, starting off with Berserk of Gluttony. Someone forgotten to sharpen the edge of this one. We went to the blacksmith of this one, and it was like a apprentice blacksmith that was like sharpening this one. This one was like a dull edge. It took basically a lot of aspects from a lot of different shows in its own genre, tried to just add a little bit of edginess, but didn't really commit to anything super fully. It was like going through a tick list of which different narrative trope can I pick from somewhere else. So this is, I swear to God, one of the most forgettable edgy fantasy shows. And I did drop it just because I want to see how edgy it would be. I'm gonna put this in D tier, starting off low. Ragnar Crimson, out of the big 3 edgy shows of the season, probably from a critical standpoint, is the best one. The animation is decent. It is right there in B tier, I would say. Just say the word, God? No, I won't say the word, even though this is technically the middle of the tier list. But we have to get to Kingdom of Ruin. Ragnar Crimson is the best show out of these 3 shows. But holy fucking shit. This is an absolute garbage show, but it's so bad and it's so edgy and it's so stupid. I kind of really dig it. I kind of really enjoy it. Kingdom of Ruin actually has a pretty interesting world because I'm a sucker for any world that combines a magic system and technology as well. But watching Kingdom of Ruin is like what would happen if some guy tried to describe the last season of Attack on Titan without any prior context, and somebody tries to write a story based on your description. From like a writing perspective, this will be all the way down here in like F tier. From an entertainment standpoint, personally, I put it like at high B, so we'll put it somewhere in the middle. One thing you should garner from this is that don't be a berserk of gluttony. If you're gonna commit to being shit, just commit to being shit. Coming up to Dr. Stone, which I haven't watched this one. A lot of Dr. Stone fans, they say that this is the arc that is really, really good, but I do not know if it's worth me catching up to, I think, another 2 seasons worth. All right, moving on to the Firefighter anime. This is, I can't remember the name, it's like Daigo or something like that. For the record, this is one of the shows that I didn't finish. What I felt about this was I felt it was more educational. It's so educational! I learned so much about firefighters just from watching this anime and what they have to go through, which full on fucking respect to firefighters. As an anime, the rescue scenes were less intense than I thought they were going to be. It was still enjoyable. I think the opening of the first episode really put me into the wrong mindset of this. So I'm gonna put this at a solid B. Fire Force is the only true firefighter anime. Excuse me, my guy. Let's not forget about that Trigger film. The inexperienced you and something is Kimi Zero. Everyone clowns on your isekai power fantasies, and sometimes I see a romance where a guy is the most bare bones basic nice guy of all time, and that's what makes him get the girl. And I'm like, this is as much of a fucking fantasy as all of this other shit, man. I want to see more in my romances now than just a guy being nice. A lot of times in romance anime, you see a guy doing something nice, and it's just like this guy is like, oh, I just want to get to know you more personally before we sleep with each other, you know, or before we have sex. And I'm like, that seems just like good, decent advice that most people should follow. And granted, a lot of people don't follow that, huh? A lot of people don't follow that, but I would like to see something a bit more nowadays. This one goes in C tier. I didn't really enjoy this one too much because what I want to see is some fucking giga chads like Rentaro, man. Rentaro isn't just the nice guy. Rentaro goes above and beyond for every single one of his girls, man. You read this and you read the premise of 100 Girlfriends and you're like, that should have been me, not him. And then you actually read the manga, you actually watch the anime and you're like, can I be, is he taking boyfriend requests? My only big complaints about 100 Girlfriends is that I don't think you would be able to enjoy this much if you weren't already really knowledgeable and invested in basically the trash harem genre. Hi, I was never a functional member of society. That's why I love this show. This is probably like up there as like one of my favorite harem shows of all time. S is way too high, bro. Nah, I'm fully embracing my trash man vibes now, man. Moving on to the detective anime. There was one detective show that obviously aired this season that was a freaking god tier detective show. We're gonna get to that one. But in terms of the other one that I liked this year, I really liked Undead Girl Murder Farce. I already forgot the name. Oh my god, that was the name. I actually got it right. I said Undead Girl Murder Farce out loud, and then something in my brain was like, that's a dumbass name. That's definitely not the name. In terms of Kaminahashi Ron, I didn't really gel with like why he just tells people to low tier god themselves, and then it just happens. So I'm gonna put this at a low B tier. You need to love yourself now. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so we had 2 racing anime this season, so I'm going to talk about both of them. And initially, I was way more hyped for MF Ghost. This is the sequel to Initial D. You know, we get to see more racing with more Eurobeat, more hype. My big problem with this was that it kind of felt like watching Star Wars The Force Awakens. The only reason I felt like I liked this was because of how much of a fan I was for like the original Star Wars or the original Initial D. In terms of fan service, in terms of me reliving the hype of nostalgia, it definitely went there, but I'm going to forget about this. This is also like a high B tier. Overtake was something that really surprised me. This was the racing anime I watched this year that I finished all the way and I really enjoyed a lot. And it follows, obviously, the main character whose agency doesn't have a lot of funding, right? And there's, you know, it legitimately makes sense because in Formula 4, it's more of an amateur scene. So some people just are super rich and can afford all of the expensive equipment. And some people just do it for the pure thrill of the race, but don't have the professional funding. And I think that's just such a good setup for a good underdog story. I'm going to give this one an A tier. You don't have to give a shit about Formula 4 or racing to really care about the storylines because they do a really good job of building up the characters for this one. Every season has a wild ass show and this season that was definitely Under Ninja, man. Under Ninja is literally the phrase, never let your enemy know your next move. My biggest problem with Under Ninja was that the production values of Under Ninja were pretty meh. It kind of gave me the vibe that I should just go off and read the manga because the manga is from the same mangaka that did I Am Hero. He's the manga of this manga, which is also a really good manga as well. The animation isn't great, but when the show wants to go hard in its comedy and its reveals, it still goes pretty damn hard. Last half goes crazy, but the CG kind of ruins it. I'm sad. It's not as high as Overtake, but it's a high B. It's a high B. Moving on to Miggy and Dali. I was like Maggie, Miggy and Dali. One thing that I thought to myself was that this could have been a really good horror manga / anime. In fact, there were some parts of this that were really unnerving to me. Like the entire concept of this is that we have a rich family that adopts what they perceive to be one singular blonde kid. At the beginning, the parents don't know that these are actually twins. And then because they're twins, at the beginning, they just completely f*** about with these parents, right? And you're thinking at the beginning, oh, these are like really smart twins. They're going completely over the top in their trolling. And then around episode 3 or episode 4, I can't remember, you think to yourself, oh, are these kids really smart? And then you realize, oh no, these kids are actually really fucking dumb. This kind of went the wholesome route in the end. Part of me wishes that this kind of did go down the psychological thriller route. This would actually have been a really effective psychological thriller. As it is, it was a very weird show, but it did definitely intrigue me a lot. I would put it kind of in the same vein as Under Ninja. Dead Mount Death Play Season 2. Fucking A tier, baby. Oh, I like this a lot. This is coming from the same guy that did Baku no Durara. I talked about the first season, and I just enjoy this guy's works a lot. One thing I've really loved about this is how they portrayed a reverse isekai with an absolutely insane fucking cast. One thing I like is just how he slowly introduces this new character and slowly makes them relevant into the plot. To everyone who found the first season kind of that was more because it was just introducing the different worlds and the different characters and then just seeing it all just like come together. If the anime was too slow for you, I honestly genuinely just read the manga. All right, moving on to 16-bit Sensation. This one, I felt like this was a solid show. This one's a high B tier for me. Now, the sci-fi aspect got kind of weird. I was okay with it, mostly because it was mostly just a gimmick. The general thing of just having this time travel gimmick. All right, I'm invested. I love time travel. I'm just like, my brain's just that easy. You add time travel to it, and then suddenly you use that as an excuse to look through the old 90s Akihabara and otaku landscape back at the time, and you're like, oh, okay, this is really good. Seeing the main character being super fucking arrogant, being like, I'm an S-tier artist, baby. I could just this is easy mode, and then having to paint with a mouse and just her completely sucking at it. Like, artists back then were truly goated because imagine having these art skills and painting with a mouse. All right. Okay. Is it ever going to go anywhere else than S-tier, guys? The first arc of season 2, I think, is possibly the weakest arc. The big standout for that arc for me was just seeing Sid constantly say, "The moon is red. We don't have time." My man said one line for like the first 3 episodes, and I'm like, all right, this is peak. All right. I don't know if it's a hot take, right? I genuinely think that Eminence in Shadow has some of the best world building you can find in the isekai genre. It's a world that still exists without Sid's influence, which makes it so fucking interesting when you add an absolute wild card like Sid to the equation. I think that's what makes it work so well. At the end of season 2, you know what's going to happen. You kind of know what the play of this arc is going to be because it makes sense in the world. It makes sense. The countries have their own self-interest. These characters want this, that character wants that. You can see how the board is going to play out, what kind of chess pieces are being placed on the board when a new arc is being introduced, and you know that they are setting up the pieces so that the stage for Sid is going to be the biggest stage possible. And I think it's that anticipation that just makes the payoff so fucking worth it, because you get the payoff and it hits every single fucking time. And then the ending of Eminence in Shadow Season 2 was just the cherry on top. It was the cherry on top that made me realize, oh, this ain't just a self-aware parody. This just has an interesting plot. And it's just genuinely one of my favorite isekais right now. I think it's my second behind Mushoku Tensei. And yeah, I will say, Delta is a good girl. The era of cat girls has gone on for too long. Where are all the good doggos in anime? And I can wholeheartedly say that thanks to Delta, we have a good fucking doggo, man. We'll see if it remains my second favorite isekai when ReZero Season 3 comes out. Moving on to Tokyo Revengers, the show that I am not watching. So we're gonna move on to Pluto. Naoki Urasawa is the absolute GOAT. This is a fucking S tier show. There is nobody that has such a mastery of suspense and mystery, like especially in the manga world, as much as Naoki Urasawa. The way he sets up this mystery and the way he gets you invested in his plot lines, that gets you asking all the right questions without giving you the exact full picture to know exactly what's going on. And then you start asking these questions. You're like trying to piece it all together. And then he'll switch off to this side story with characters you have no idea about, who are not relevant to the plot, and you're like, why the should I care about these characters? Why do I even care about them? And then he will stick with these characters. Then you get so invested in this side story, you forget why you were invested in the overarching story to begin with. He will fucking tear your heart to shreds with this side story. And then at the end of it, he'll go, actually, this was relevant to the main plot the entire time. It works every single time. My only issue with Pluto is that it didn't have my favorite endings of his works. And I feel like a lot of this was to do with the Astro Boy aspect. Felt a little bit rushed, a little bit shonen-y, but after watching it, it didn't really detract from my overall enjoyment. Very similar to the Attack on Titan ending, where I'm like, this didn't blow my mind, it did what it needed to do, and it didn't ruin everything that came before it, which is, that's fine. And it's rare that you can find a writer that can make you care about so many different characters and have every single episode be so dense with not just like ideas, but just a message that rings true to the heart. Okay, moving on to Shy. Does it really deserve to be on this tier? I didn't finish it though. Yeah, I didn't finish it. And I don't have any interest in finishing it. It's kind of felt like a magical girl show in disguise. I did find it funny that basically every country has a hero that represents the vibe of that country. And then the Russian girl is just this drunk ass blonde girl that just drinks vodka all the time. And then who represents Japan? The socially awkward anime girl that has social anxiety. Okay. Yes, definitely checks out. Maybe it gets better, but the first 4 episodes didn't grab me, unfortunately. USA has guns, or... Moving on to The Returner's Magic Should Be Special. Is not special. I can't remember the name. I watched the first episode and I was like, this looks like very production values. And everyone kept raving about the manhwa. And I'm like, okay, I'm 55 chapters into the manhwa. When does it get good? When will manga readers stop capping? It's another regression manhwa. I have read so many regression manhwa. This does not stand out at all. The manhwa has good art. What the f? One thing I will say is that there are so many manhwa with really good art. This one, comparatively to some other webcomics I've read, is definitely not something like Solo Leveling level. It's I am even surprised it's got an anime. Manga readers be like, wait, you didn't read to chapter 100? Alright, moving on to Critical Rain, that's the one. And then we actually got spoiled by King's Avatar, because this is like if you tried to write an esports, but added every anime trope into this storyline that was just so goddamn unnecessary. The guy hasn't played the game in like fucking 5 years or some shit. I can't remember. The guy didn't play. The guy gave up the game because he was gaming too hard. He had PTSD from gaming. I can't remember the backstory. I think his like dad died or something when he was gaming, or he was too addicted to the game. I don't remember. So he gave up the game. Suddenly he picks up again, and he's like, you know what? Let's start an esports team. Why not? Let's do open trials to this no-name local esports team. Okay, number 1, they find these fucking god tier players that just so happen to turn up to the trial. And why the would these challenger players come to this trial that is mostly filled with gold tier platinum tier players. There is no way you would not already get picked up by some kind of other esports team. Instead of like animating something in-game to show their matches, I believe they built a fully playable game that they used for the scenes that had their esports in it. The problem with that is it kind of looks like, remember that South Park episode where they did World of Warcraft? It kind of looks like that, but just a really bad rip-off of Counter-Strike. I commend the effort. Maybe they took the wrong approach with that, unfortunately. This one, that wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. Is there anything else that bad? Okay, yeah, okay, there we go. Berserk of Gluttony was looking very lonely in there. Actually, you're right. This goes down though. This goes down. There was something I enjoyed about all of these. I didn't really enjoy this one. Moving on to the pig isekai. All right, I'm not gonna cap, guys. I'm not gonna cap. I'm not gonna cap. I gave this one episode, guys. It wasn't Inukai's dog. That's what I will say. Moving on to Fooly-Cooly Shoegaze or Shoegaze. I don't know actually what's the proper pronunciation. I actually enjoyed it. A big problem with Fooly-Cooly was that it was trying to retread on the magic of the original, and it has like failed to really knuckle down on what made the original special in the first place. But one thing I've really enjoyed about this one was this idea of one of the main characters from a previous season. It dealt with the idea of what happens when you have a main character that is in this like world-saving kind of event that has to grow up and face the adult world. Didn't Boruto do that? This is gonna be a hot take. I think it's a low A. I think it needed more episodes. And honestly, Pillow's OP, man. Pillows is so fucking OP. You know, we had Fooly-Cooly Grunge, which was... Having said that, I would like them to stop making Fooly-Coolys. There is no way that you can reclaim what the original Fooly-Cooly did for its audience at the time with sequels. Moving on to Bullbuster. This one has such a niche appeal. As someone who has lived in Japan, I very much resonated with some of the aspects that this dealt with. The kaiju are more dealt with like pest control, and I like the fact that it just, you know, you had to deal with problems like how much paperwork you'd have to deal with. Now I fucking know that I've assimilated in Japanese culture where I see paperwork being done and I'm like, oh, real shit, they understand. Actual believable world now. Unfortunately, I think its production values hold it back a lot. If you've seen the CG monsters, it doesn't look great at all. I'm gonna put it C tier next to Shy. Moving on to Spy Family Season 2. I am so happy we finally got to see Yor do some fucking assassinating, man. Seeing her solo 100 assassins on a ship, or like, I think it was 100. Seeing her solo them was like, oh shit, about damn time, baby. I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I feel like Lloyd, on his day, I feel like Lloyd could take Yor. After season 2, I'm like, oh, yo, I know who wears the pants in this family, man. Happy wife, happy life. Am I right, lads? There ain't no way. You do not want to piss off your wife at all, man. Spy Family, it's a solid A for me, and it's pretty much always been a solid A. The biggest thing I will say about it is that it's never been anything but an A. It is one of the most consistent shows on this list. It is just more fucking great entertainment. We've gone from Spy X Family to Girlfriend. I think it was just overshadowed by 100 Girlfriends this season. And then I ended up watching season 2. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. This is still really fucking enjoyable. Watching Girlfriend made me realize maybe this is the future of the harem genre. Maybe we don't need 100 girls, you know, maybe 4, maybe the era of having a weak-ass main character who has commitment issues and can't pick a fucking girl for 200 chapters. Maybe the era of that is over, you know. Maybe let's just indulge in the harem for a bit. This is definitely a hot take. I've enjoyed these shows more than quintessential quintuplets. The war is over, everybody wins now. That's what I'm saying, man. Quince had a bad ending. I mean, yeah, it depends. Maybe I'm just salty. Maybe I'm just salty, guys. Shit, why are you gonna call me out like that, man? Am I that predictable? Nah. Yeah, you're right. Moving on to Attack on Titan final season, final episode, part 2. Out of every show I've seen so far, I have not seen such a wide range of different rankings to what the f. There were a few issues that I had with the ending. I think there are some things that could have been laid out more clearly, especially when it came to Eren's character and Eren's motivation. I feel like you really had to dig down deep and make some assumptions in terms of what he was doing. Having said that, I think the ending did pretty much everything it needed to do. I will give it like low A tier. Now, if I'm talking about Attack on Titan as a whole, easily one of my favorite anime of all time. And the ending didn't ruin its legacy at all. Attack on Titan to me was that show that was there when I was going into adulthood. But it was a show that you could easily recommend to any adult out there. Even though the ending was probably my least favorite part of season 4, Attack on Titan as a whole will still go down as one of the greatest anime ever made, in my opinion. And somehow I was never spoiled on the ending. Somehow. And then we get to Shield Hero. Oh boy. The animation in season 3, I don't know if they changed studio or if they changed staff members, but it looks a lot better than it did in season 2. It has a tournament arc that lasts for about 2 episodes. I don't really know where it's going now. It's just kind of boring. Like, at least with the first season, it had this revenge aspect to it, and somehow they made the spear hero even creepier, man. All I'm saying is he ain't beating the allegations with season 3, man. Bro's making Rudius look like he's a functional member of society, man. Why are you doing that? It's only low C because I enjoyed the tournament arc episodes, and it does have an increase in quality, but I think this is it, guys. I don't think I'm gonna get back into it. I say this every fucking time. I say this every fucking time. I say this every time. Moving on to Goblin Slayer season 2. It was like B tier. The first arc was pretty boring, if I'm being honest. I didn't like the first arc where the kid with the glasses, yeah, that kid, he kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie, he kind of sucked. The season was a little bit more slice of lifey, and I kind of feel like they're trying to develop the characters, and I'm waiting to see if Goblin Slayer will actually become a more interesting character, because I get it, he has PTSD, he has trauma, but my god, I feel for everyone around Goblin Slayer trying to hold a single conversation with him because everything revolves around goblins. I'm like, oh my god, Jesus, can you stop talking? I get it, you're the Goblin Slayer. Can you stop talking about goblins for 1 second? I get it. All right. Oh, are you not sleeping? Oh, it's because you need to be awake for goblins. Okay, I get it. Which moves us on to Shangri-La Frontier. It was an A tier for me. A show about the sweatiest gamers being as sweaty as they can possibly be. Like, the stakes in the game is trying to do this achievement that no other gamer has done before. Compared to like life or death situation, those stakes seem a lot lower, but just having those stakes there just makes me so much more invested in the world of Shangri-La Frontier. It understands that gamers don't really care about, hey, if you die in the game, you die in real life. No, it's like, hey, here's this one achievement that no one has ever achieved in the video game. And you're like, oh shit. I'm waiting, you're waiting for the fucking summoning salt music to come in. Frieren. is clearly D tier. We don't care about Frieren. We're just it's another fantasy show, guys. It's just a trashy fantasy show. All right, okay, guys. Okay. I'll move it up. Okay, guys. I'll move it up. It sells you on this concept of having the point of view of an elf, a long-living elf, and then with how the plot evolves, it's kind of evolving more into your standard Tolkien-esque fantasy adventure. But the thing is, it's still really fucking good. Normally, I hate the trope of, oh, I'm a girl without emotions. Oh, I'm discovering emotions. But I think it just works so well with Frieren because it makes sense for her character. She's not like without emotions. She's just emotionally distant. Why should she care about the people around her when she has a lifespan where there'll just be a blip in her entire life? And her emotions of just trying to discover, you know, what is really important, meeting Himmel, and just having someone in your life for such a short amount of time, but then having that person have such a huge effect on a being that lives for so long, I think is just really goddamn beautiful. And every scene where she, you know, learns something new hits right here, man. That hits right here. And then out of nowhere, they're like, wait a minute, let's drop a really fucking hard action scene. Oh, what's that? We want a dance scene? Here, let's drop a banger fucking dance scene as well. What this reminded me of was Mushoku Tensei Season 1. It's a production that has clearly had enough time to cook, and this is what happens when you see a truly polished piece of work. Not to mention, Evan Cole is fucking killing it with the OST as well. Oh, everything about this just hits so hard, man. Which moves us on to Apothecary Diaries. Every time a new episode comes out, I'm like, I gotta watch this right now. This is just really cool characters. Mao Mao is such an interesting character and such a breath of fresh air when it comes to female protagonists. What watching this every week reminds me of is, I don't know who will have this experience, but when I was a kid, I would come into the living room and my mum would be watching this shoddily Thai dub of this soap opera, of this Chinese or Korean soap opera to do with, like, you know, the Imperial Temple. And I'm like, Mum, what the f are you watching? This looks so boring. And then here I am getting invested in the politics of the temple and seeing Mao Mao just kind of like putting her influence into the temple politics of everything, because I initially said that, yeah, this is House MD in Imperial China. That's not the only reason I really love this show, because there is the detective aspect of this show, and there is also the political aspect of this show as well. Temple, I keep calling it temple, it's a palace, sorry, yeah. That's my monk mind. Seeing like which girls are getting bullied, who's bullying who, and just seeing Mao Mao assert her dominance in all of these little like cliques, little circles. It's like, ooh, I feel like one of those girls just like drinking the most delectable tea. You're like, ooh, she did what? No, she did not slap her. Oh, you pop off, queen, you pop off. It's an S tier show. Moving on. Undead Unluck is around A tier. I always like it when you have superpowers, right? And then you have characters that really seem like they properly think about how to use their superpowers, right? That is the vibe with most of the characters in Undead Unluck. And that's what makes it really, really fucking fun. I heard later that they do a really good job with, I'm not sure if this is correct, but it turns into like a kind of like a shonen Cinderella story, you know, which is interesting. As it stands, I enjoyed the action in this. It's about the same level as Mashle. Like, a lot of people like to call shows like Mashle and Undead the M word. I do think this is a tier below some of the other high-profile shonens. It's still fucking A tier for me because we leave off at... Hey, honey. You need anything?
Where's the charger?
Okay. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. S for spoilers. If you are a regular viewer of these tier lists, I talk about Jujutsu Kaisen a lot, and I said it was still cooking. Give it time, it's still cooking. And everyone continued talking to me about the Shibuya arc. Everyone was saying, hey, this is the arc. This is the arc that is going to sell you on Jujutsu Kaisen. And I don't know what it was like in the manga, but manga readers, you're all right. The big talking point with season 2 has been Mappa's treatment of its animators.
I got my own sweatshop, nigga, goddamn.
Which, you know, a lot of us have been aware of this. And it blows my mind that even with all of these stories coming out, how much these animators delivered. I cannot give enough respect to the teams and the animators that worked on season 2, because what you have delivered is an absolute masterpiece of spectacle. This is the peak of spectacle and action. Demon Slayer might have 1 or 2 scenes that deliver the hype. The thing that blew my mind about Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 was I would put on the episode, right? And I'd be mid-season and you'd see a fight and you're like, holy shit, this is some of the coolest animation I've seen all year. And then you'd put on the next episode and it would top itself. And you're like, I am not gonna see anything cooler than this. And then it tops itself. And then it keeps going. And then it doesn't stop. Normally, when it comes to the end of the year, we have something like the Crunchyroll Awards, where we vote on the top anime fight of the year. The top anime fight of the year is just all gonna be Jujutsu Kaisen fights, and it fucking deserves it as well. Some of the coolest stuff I've seen just in anime in general is contained within Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, man. There is a lot more to be discussed about the plot side of things. I'm not gonna spoil anything, right? All I will say is that there was not a single plot point that wasn't already spoiled to me. Instead of being shocked by the developments, it gave me the viewpoint of maybe the Shibuya arc came like 1 arc too early. Maybe it would have hit me harder if I had more time for these characters to reach their full potential, or see a bit more of these characters. Thank you, Jujutsu Kaisen fandom. You've made it really hard for me to come into this series blind. Because that shock factor was taken from me, some of the characters that were taken away, I felt were taken away before I'd had enough time to really truly care about them. I don't know what happens after this. Right now, there is just nothing that comes close to Jujutsu Kaisen when it just comes to the rule of cool. Like, that's why I didn't really care about the plot too much. You pair that with some of the coolest scenes and some of the coolest animations, and you have a recipe for the modern classic shonen arc, man. And it's definitely left its mark on anime history. I think it's going to be a long time since we see a singular arc go this goddamn hard. Back in my day, I'd have to watch 100 episodes of Naruto to get one really cool action scene, man. But that is my tier list for the fall anime season. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Was there any shows that is not on this list that you want to put on? Leave a comment in the section down below, or you can just like and subscribe if I do not know what I'm doing. My brain is fucking fried. Yeah, leave a comment down in the description, whatever.